Hello. Welcome to a wonderful episode of Not Wasting a Single Story. I'm your host, Dr. Gamuchirai Mutezo. But wait, today I don't just have Dr. G in the space, I have a fellow Dr. G as well. Hi, Güera. Sorry, Dr. G. See what I did there? So Güera and I met through someone, and we're still trying to figure that part out. We befriended over LinkedIn, and there's so many conversations we had, and we could really resonate within the respective activities that we're doing. Fast forward, when certain stars align that you need to meet or you need to engage a person, we found ourselves in a similar program, actually the same program, that looks at capacitating females within the circular economy space. And from there, the activities we were doing, I realized, hey, this calls for a glass of wine. Although we don't have the wine yet because we're just warming up and it's in front of the camera, this has given us a wonderful opportunity to finally meet. So I'm really, really delighted to have you on the screen couch, Dr. J. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Great.
Dr. G.
Oh, well, this is going to be a fun episode as we poke each other. Pew, pew,
pew, pew, pew.
Indeed.
It seems we met somewhere in March 2022. So we've been going just over 2 years in the virtual space.
Goodness.
And from the LinkedIn, it looks like we met when we attended something online by the looks of the messages. What that was, I can't recall. But it was obviously well worth it.
Clearly, because you're here.
I'm here.
Oh, once again, it's really a pleasure to have you on this couch. Earlier on, I was just poking you and mentioning that I look forward to posing some questions, getting to know you. But like I said, it's all in a good faith. Before doing that, who are you? Where did you grow up? Why do you do what you do? What are your hobbies? Who's the person behind the business?
Wow. Okay. Yeah. You don't think about who are you and who were you as a child. I was born in Hernieuw, the eldest of three. My dad was a detective in the police force. And I think from him, I inherited the investigative mind.
Yeah.
I remember he used to go into the charge office, that front office on a Sunday night to go and do inspections and look at, all the issues that they had. And I remember looking at how neat it was and everybody knew what to do, how to do it, and there was a rhythm and a story, And years later, he went into narcotics and it's very involved in understanding why these issues in narcotics. How does it work? How to find the baddies?
Yeah.
And I love to just work with him and just see what how he resolves these issues. And I definitely have that gene because that is who I am. I always want to resolve something, fix something, rescue something, find how do I make something work that is not working. So that is me in who I am. So I was in Hernieuw until late 80s. I finished high school in Johannesburg. I went to art school.
Okay.
I offered opera as matric subject, yes.
Interesting.
Can sing opera. Well, that was like many, many, many moons ago.
Not if now. That spirit just comes out during this session. There you go.
And then, so after school, I went to work. I enrolled for a BCom at UNISA. And I then turned the BCom into a BCom Industrial Psychology. As I started working, I realized that I'm more motivated by the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Because that very often leads us to what we should be doing and not. But yes, I worked in office, finance, office, admin. My first job was to input invoices. I mean, how boring. Yet, you're sitting on this mainframe. I'm not talking 89.
Yeah.
And you're sitting on this mainframe and you have a batch of invoices. That's how it worked back then. And you're like, these are all the invoices that I need to capture. This is all the stock I need. It was the photocopy, that pink carbon copy of the sales book.
Yeah.
That's how far back it goes. And then, I had to figure out how much, we need to invoice, and I had to add up the stock. And then the mainframe said to me, well, you don't have the stock. And I was like, now I'm 19 years old. I'm like, how do we sell something we don't have?
Yeah.
So I, at the age of 19, implemented a stock management system for this organization.
Ooh.
And it just shows you how I think. It's not working. It's not enabling others to do what they need to do. So let me fix it.
Yes.
And I implemented the system. And by December, we went to do stock take in the mini factory of what the system said there should be. And I remember walking in there and the workers there said, so you're going to come and say to me what is here?
Yeah.
I said to him, no, you're going to show me that what I think is here is here. And the rest is history. I have been fixing and improving and re-engineering ever since. So now I'm in textiles. I'm still doing it.
Yeah. When you set up this system, were you setting it up with a background in textiles and waste, or were you setting it up because the Holy Ghost spoke to you?
I think the Holy Ghost. And I'm not sure what the Holy Ghost is telling me. So very often I would say, okay, so who am I and what is it that I do?
Yeah.
And then I would go, I wish I knew. When I set up this system back in the 90s, I think it's just the way that I look at things. If I go into a restaurant, I can't eat without looking around. What can I improve? What is not working? The efficiencies. It's just how my mind works.
Yes.
But back then I was just an admin clerk.
Okay. And so the role that your father played was quite pivotal, because as some of the guests who've sat on the green couch have indicated, it starts at home. It starts with what one is exposed to. And so your curious mind, your liking of things. And so we say, ba baya dankie. That's the little Afrikaans that's still in me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think our home was such that we always had to do our own things. It's not like we had help. You fix your own things. And I mean, in those years also, you don't just, have the money to replace.
Yeah.
You learn to fix, you learn to look after your things. And even my mom, who was at home most of her life, also once made the comment that somehow I just know what it is that needs to be done. Nobody has to explain to me. I can see what needs to be done. And more importantly, go out and action.
Yes.
I think I've written the book on action because it's like while others still writing a nice report, I've already done it. Like, hello, it's not difficult.
Yeah.
But I think it's also, a bit of personality. I have my own internal fire. I just go. I don't need anyone to ask me or remind me to go. So yeah, a lot of that is homeborn because it is the environment allowed me to express that and to nurture that.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise that when you start working that will happen as you work. Not necessarily a good thing always because. And I remember watching a video once around somebody who felt she's always fixing, she's always called to fix and improve and rescue and help. And sometimes we also need to look inside ourselves and ask, where does this come from? So now that you say, it comes from home, it feels a bit like I'm sitting in a psychology coach. It's like, why do you have this need to fix and rescue and whatever? But be that as it may, it is who I am. And I do believe that, if you have the calling to enable others, if you have the ability to see what it is that they need to allow them to do what they need to do, then that is why I'm here on earth. If I am able to help you to do what you need to do, then I've served my purpose.
Wonderful.
So yes, it's from home. I've continued to nurture it and I continue to do so.
I'm curious, did you intentionally or indirectly speak about waste at home? Or aspects of environment, sustainability, and so forth?
Not at all. I left my full-time IT role in the beginning of 2020. I always knew that at some point, and I think it's when you hit the half-century mark, something happens. So I always knew that I wanted to go entrepreneurial later in life once, the kids and everything is done. But back then in IT, I didn't know anything of this environment at all. I didn't know about SDGs and ESGs and sustainability and I didn't know the terms, the acronyms, the nothings. So no, we did not speak about waste, although we were not wasteful. There was never a lot of money, so you learn to look after your things.
Yes.
But no, the conversation as we have it today, no, never.
Okay. You leave IT. How on earth did you end up in a space that you were not talking about when growing up?
Somewhere in COVID, and we will blame COVID.
Okay.
A friend and I, in August 2020, decided we wanted to get in on the online secondhand sales action. It's very easy. We were influenced by what was happening in Europe and in North America. They get the secondhand vintage stuff and the labels and all of those things. And we're going to do this. I knew we won't get that much vintage and labels, but I did expect to get some good stuff.
Yes.
How wrong were we?
And this is starting as a joke.
This
two
friends sidelined. I mean, we were both like a bit short on cash, want to do certain things, and we thought, nice, easy way to make money. And it's not. But we had this heap of materials and old, garments and stuff, and we realized there were a few nice things that we could sell. But by the time you recovered it, washed it, sold it, you actually didn't make money. But I looked at the materials, the shirts and stuff, and I thought, you know what, this is fiber. And at the time, I saw a needle felting machine. It is an artisanal loom, 326 needle felting machine, and it was used to not recycle, but to use wool to make wool things.
Okay.
And I remember sending an email to the manufacturer, a lady and her husband in New Mexico in the United States, and explaining to her, I want to use this machine on waste materials, normal textiles. And she said to me, you want to do what? I explained to her the rationale. She says, I've never heard of it, but I think it can work. Let me find out if I need to fit it with needles, specifically for that. Lo and behold, the machine arrived 4 months later, beginning of 2021. And I remember putting old shirts through this machine. So needle felting is a non-woven. It is a needle with little barbs, and it holds onto the fiber, and it literally mushes the fibers together into a matted new material.
All right.
So I'm recycling waste materials into a new material.
All right.
So I'm doing these experiments. The first one was so horrible. I was so depressed. I put the machine down. Now it's a humongous machine. It's a monster, and it was standing in front of my car because I didn't have space for it in the house. So I just left it. I thought, what have I done? And in April, I thought, no, let me pick this up again and put on my academic research hat. I must now know how to do this. And I went through the assessment of the materials, what works, what doesn't, how does it work? And I did it with rigor. I really did it with, recording everything, photos, and then go and redo what I found was working. And by July, I had a material that I was happy with. So I basically became a textile manufacturer in 2021.
Was it textile remanufacturer?
Remanufacturer, yeah. Let's not exaggerate. Yes,
That's pretty
a textile remanufacturer. And now this is now like a year and a half into me working with waste, understanding the scope and the size of waste, the type of waste we've got. And so as I went into sustainability and became aware of it, I realized that when we talk about textile recycling, we think, or the layman in the street would think, it is turning an old shirt into a new shirt. And you sometimes see this on YouTube. There's these videos where, and I know there's one, I think, of H&M, where they put all the materials into this machine that's standing in a shop front, and out spits this new knitted thing, I think it is. And you look at it and you think, that is nonsense. you do not recycle a shirt into a new shirt. Recycling is very, very hard. And what we're doing today in South Africa in terms of recycling is to collect, shred, bale, store. It's that front part that we're doing very well. In fact, we have a lot of organizations that work with retailers to take their excess. They're using it for entrepreneurial education, etc. So there we are being very effective.
Yes.
But we do not have applications for it. And I think that is where I'm now looking at the fix, rescue, do, have answers. And I'm looking at what is it that we cannot do.
Yeah.
At the time I decided to go down this route, I did not realize how vexing this is and how expensive it is. And that in the world, textile recycling today is still not economically viable or technically feasible.
True.
But since I can fix everything, let me go on and fix this.
Why
I don't have all the answers yet, but yes, from not speaking about waste to becoming a textile remanufacturer, looking at how can we make opportunities available from an available waste and developing the methods and the methodologies and the technology to actually recycle waste. And when I mean recycle, is to make a new material from something that is available in the local environment.
I must commend you for being a bulldozer, for being a liker of things, because you said, come rain, come thunder, come sunshine, I'm going to do my part and see how to work with these textiles. So kudos, because 2-3 years later, you're here and you're still pushing, and this is your contribution to this underexploited resource we call textile waste. So kudos to you on that. And as you're taking this journey, right, market access, because that's one of the issues and pain points that leads textiles into landfill. How has that journey been?
Very hard journey. And to your point, if there's no market access, if there's no demand for what you're making, then you don't have a business. And that was one of my harder lessons in the last year.
Yeah.
I spent the first 2 years, so last part of 2020 to middle of 2022, to come up with a material that works. So for me, it was also about the technical feasibility and also about the manufacturing around that. Always having worked in a technical environment, in the built environment, since my first job where I did my stock, implementation. Since there, I've been always working in a technical environment. So I was very much motivated by finding the tech that works, to the point that someone actually called me an emerging eco-industrialist a few weeks ago. And I must tell you, it is really working for me, because it's not about just recycling the material into a new upcycled laptop sleeve. It's about the equipment and the efficiencies that you're going to get by automating some of the recycling. Because if you think about recycling, you think about somebody doing home or using home hardware to recycle it into something else. And what can they then sell? The market opportunity for that is limited.
Yes.
You think about an artist sitting at an open air market and selling what he made yesterday, hopefully for enough so that he can eat.
Yes.
So that whole demand needs to be stimulated. We need to make a demand.
Yes.
And you can only do that if you have a different application. So the technology I use, the non-woven, is what we use for underfelt.
Okay.
But I'm not making underfelt.
Yes.
I'm making a sexy thing that you can put on the wall.
Yeah.
But in that comes, how do you then apply it? How many sexy things can we have on the wall? And how do you find other applications for it? So not only as an art, but something functional, because eventually you want to offer this material as an alternative material to a virgin option. And how do we get the retail sector to not see this as, oh, we're investing in a poor artist? No, you're investing in a retail item that is made on a fair scale, not scale as we know scale today, but also not as a one unique item. What about 100 unique items? And for retail to be able and willing to fund what is necessary to get that moving. And where scale then means 4 or 5 regional implementations where a mini factory with artisanal equipment can then cycle through their own waste or localized, waste, and making something that basically goes into a national feed, retail feed. So it's a whole systems view that you need to take, because you're not only helping the artisanal recycler with the manufacturing equipment, you're also dealing with the feedstock to make sure that they get access to the right feedstock in the right format, in the right volume that makes sense, to them, but also that you develop this demand side so that by the time we get this part working, there's a retail sector that says, we understand what we're doing here. We are not hosting or, accepting a unique artist item. We actually have a whole new supply chain. So that's the vision.
I'm hearing you. I'm really, really hearing you. And at the same time, I'm putting myself in the shoes of retailers. And I'm wondering if I'm hearing you, if I'm deciding to hear you.
The retailers would not hear this yet, but that's fine.
It's still mindset thing or more of...
It's a financial thing.
Okay.
It's a financial thing. We are unfortunately still in the space where we want to sell something for as much as we can while we fund it for as little as we can.
Yeah.
Waste is something that you and I need to deal with. It's not something the retailers have to work with. If they donate, they've done their part. There are individuals within the retail sector who understand that that is not the case, but it's still too easy to just move the waste onto the next available hands. And as I said earlier on that first part where we collect and store, that works well. The moment we get into the actual recycling, the physical cutting up, the physical remanufacturing, there we don't have solutions. And that is where I believe the retailers need to start funding it.
Yes.
I know we don't want to do the EPR scheme. You want it to become naturally that everybody funds what should be funded and not be obliged to pay an EPR fee. I don't necessarily think that EPR is the right answer, but unfortunately we need to have that as a stick for those who don't want to, help. So hopefully we have some retailers listening to this conversation and understand that it is time to speak about the elephant in the room.
Yeah. And while that conversation stews with the retailers, what can small businesses or individuals attempt either to do or to innovate in the meantime? Because we might not have enough time to wait for retailers as the textiles continue to pile up. The landfills are full.
I think there's an opportunity in the refashioning space for small designers.
Wait, what's refashioning?
Okay, so refashion is when you take an article, a garment, and you turn it into another garment by snipping off the sleeve, working another sleeve. So it's not repair. It's not replacing the zips or the button because it's not working. It is literally, I take two things and I make something else. In that refashioning space, we have the opportunity to offer fashion that is otherwise not available. And I'm saying this because, and again, the retailers are going to listen to this and hate me, but the stuff that is available in the shops today are horrible. I'm sorry. It's not form-fitting. It is not size inclusive. It is the most boring print that is available in the world, I think. If you look at what is available now, shops, and you compare it to what's available in Europe, you're like, can't I go shop in Europe?
It's like fast-moving consumer prints.
I mean, it is just horrible. It is no. And at the same time, you've seen that Shein and Temu's the other one.
Yes.
I mean, they're making billions every year.
Yeah.
And South Africa is going gaga about it. Just look on Facebook. We have a Temu Facebook page. It's a group of people. Shein, it's a group of people, hundreds, thousands of people importing their items because it just looks so much nicer. It fits so much better, and it's not necessarily a worse quality than the local. So that is the opportunity for the local designer to compete with Temu and Shein. Make the stuff that they make, the designs, the look and feel, the overall, because we cannot buy that in South Africa.
Yes.
And then compete with them. Yes, you're going to be more expensive. But one of the issues with this import is sometimes, you lose your little parcel. I actually saw one where the note was from the what they call them, saying the parcel fell into the sea. So it literally fell off the boat and it fell into the sea. So this person bought a garment and it fell into the sea. Yeah. So imagine you can just walk up to Menlyn and there's somebody who sells unique refashioned items.
Yeah, just dress the dolphin while you're at it.
Exactly. I don't want to know what else is lying on the bottom of the sea, but there is an opportunity that I think is untapped, and that is much easier to work up the waste materials because we've got a lot in the system, and the gates, are still open. We are not making less, in terms of garments. In fact, if you look at the retailers' reports every year, it's year on year, they want to increase their sales. So there is no reduction in the volume anytime soon. So find that as an opportunity.
Although I'm not directly involved in textiles, I feel it's such a wonderful and underutilized type of resource, not necessarily waste. And the entrepreneur in me, out of curiosity, starts investigating where are some of these enterprise development hubs that can assist me to actually do the business of fashion. Because I hear you say refashion, right?
Yeah, refashion.
Yes, I can refashion the item, but do I have the skills and the know-how to run a business from it, whether it's solopreneur or partnershipreneur, whichever. So are you aware of any such platforms where those who may be watching and listening can actually explore as individuals interested in textile refashioning?
I think there's a lot of emphasis on material reuse at the design schools. So places like Stadio, it's a fashion school, and I know they have a lot of emphasis on reusing the material. Then the Craft and Design Institute, I came upon them about middle of last year. It's specifically for artists, but it's not only fashion, not only textiles. They're doing all sorts of other art, but they also support artists. In fact, it is one of my little funds that I was able to get, that was such a nice one to get. They're helping me to get into the sales mode, for entrepreneurs looking at innovation and machinery and manufacturing, for me to put on a sales hat. How do I sell this stuff? How do I make it up so nicely that it is export worthy? And that's how I found them. They have a little workshop in Cape Town at the waterfront where you can go to, and they will help you to make up an item for you to see how it's done. But they can also then link you up with others. I'm now doing a bit of a cohort, like our other one that we share, where you literally just learn online how to run a business. What is marketing? What is Facebook marketing? What is Facebook ads? That sort of thing. Yeah. Don't underestimate how do you get that knowledge while you're still figuring out what to do with the material. These things need to happen all at the same time, and having that type of support is awesome. So I would say the CDI definitely, the Stadios, but then also just reach out to other CMTs. Yes. There's a lot of CMTs working from home, small CMTs. They don't have the large assignments with the retailers. They literally make a few things for other designers. Find them. It's a bit hard to work with them because obviously they work with the larger assignments first. So just my experience, I have a one item I want to make because I want to test it, and it remains in the back of the queue because the bigger assignments come before mine. But just persevere. You'll find one. You'll find one that you can work with that will slip in your assignment in between. Because you don't need to learn to do everything yourself. Work with others that can help you in the spaces where you don't have the skill. But just ask and the internet is full of stuff. You can learn whatever there is on internet. It's just what you ask for.
Yeah. Some of the principles I've taken out from what you've mentioned now: be a curious individual, be intentional to maximize on the digital platforms and upskill. We acknowledge that the textile waste space is still developing, but it's not going to stop an individual or a small business from exploring and testing out things. And the second principle in this as well is think innovatively of what you can do with those pieces of material, whether it's refashioning, redesigning, using it as a cushion, but see what else you can do in the meantime while we wait for certain structures to be in place. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That is absolutely that. And I think what you've highlighted now that maybe I'm missing, I'm so focused on the system that I want to, affect, that individual users and consumers also have the opportunity to recycle their own things, refashioning it for themselves.
Yeah.
And what I've realized is a lot of these shops that sell nice items, garments, the smaller shoppies, the curated shops, if I can refer to them. I'm exhibiting at one, and they've moved from just selling items on the shelf to running workshops. So you can sign up for a workshop to come and make a leather bag, not just walk into the shop and buy a leather bag. And I start seeing that more and more, that everybody wants to make things. It's a way of relief, I guess. There's quite a lot happening now, what they call the makers movement.
Okay.
It's people wanting to make things, and you can make your thing at home by replacing the buttons with big flashy ones, or snipping off the sleeves and working a little elastic in to make it short, whatever.
Yeah.
You can actually do that at home. You don't have to donate or leave it in the bin. Experiment with it.
This is good, because coming back to the point we started off with around things starting at home, right? What our listeners and viewers can actually do as a fun family activity or friends coming together is to have these activity sessions, right? So on a Saturday afternoon, bring your old clothes, we've got some material, and we just play around with it. That way, it's 2 jeans diverted from landfilling. It's 1 shirt diverted from landfilling. So looking at the fun side of the textile waste space, food for thought.
That is food for thought. I'm just thinking now, we used to have knitting circles and book circles, Tupperware parties. Can't we have a refashion party?
Okay, look, when you start one, just give me a shout.
First one. But yes, that is how we need to start thinking about it, because it's a resource. It's not waste.
Yes. All right. And as we work towards rounding up our session, this is literally part 1 of many, because whenever I have these conversations with people, you realize there's so much. It's a teaser for now. I see you've got some items. Mind just
explain what it is and how it works.
Yeah.
Yes, let me
sure.
bring this closer. So, as I've explained, it's the needle felting machine mats the material together. So it's a needle with barbs that holds onto the fiber, and it mushes the fiber through to the other fiber. So you have off-cut materials, just materials.
It can be any texture.
Any materials. I can work with a blend. The moment it has too much lycra in, that elastic just doesn't want to, it just snaps.
Okay.
So something that is cotton rich, but it doesn't have to be 100% natural.
Yes.
I then use another tool or machine called a Hollander beater. Now, Hollander beater is a machine with a motor that runs water in a circle. Yes, it unfortunately uses water. It's a machine that they use to make paper. So you make your pulp to make paper. I use this to refiberize the material, but I don't pulp it.
Oh,
not to
right.
the point where it's pulped.
Yes.
So basically, you get a fluff, a shoddy, that I then lay on top of another material, and the needles then mushes it back into the material. So it literally mats it. So if you look on the front and the back, you see it literally has gone through. So from that to that, I can remanufacture a material.
Look, winter's coming. I'm just saying.
You know how many people want a jacket of that?
I'm just saying. You know,
You're just saying,
my
this looks
size.
like nice color, doesn't it?
I'm just going to give you my size after this podcast, okay?
And using that same material, just overlaying it so I don't refiberize it, I just overlay it, I can make a new material.
I'm also seeing a market opportunity from an arty-farty perspective, the art industry, especially within schools. When we have to do crafts, we can start utilizing such material as well as the buttons. Bring your old things, let's remake, let's refurbish, and you sell this as the primary material for them to make others. Because pencil case, hoodie, you name it.
You name it, you can do that. What we need to get right, and that is where I am now, is how do we make this financially feasible? Because of the labor that goes in and the machinery that is not at a point where you get that that nice financial point where it makes sense for everyone in the circle, that's the next thing we need to overcome.
The money.
But it's going to happen because the reality is we've got a lot of stock in the system and we need answers for it. We cannot leave it there. It's not going to just leave us. It's going to remain there.
Yeah. All right. So. In conclusion, what is that one piece of advice that you'll give to those operating in the waste sector? I'm leaving it broad so that you can customize your response as you see fit. But as they finish watching this episode, what's that one thing you want them to take home and be like, you know what, I'm going to get going?
If you want to succeed in the waste sector, you need to have tenacity. If you don't have the willingness to get up again tomorrow, if you were smacked down today, don't go and look for something else to do. It is probably the most devious sector to go into. And the reason for that is because it is complex to solve. It's a system. And the moment you want to work here, this moves, and you need to understand that you must be willing to go with that flow. You must also have sufficient funding to support yourself because nobody wants to pay for this. And if they do, they want to give you a little bit to show a little bit. And for what we want to do here, we can't do the little bits. So it's exciting when you are in the waste sector, but be mindful because you're going to cry. So be ready, wipe the tears, get up, go again. And then secondly, make sure that you ask for what you need. I think for me, again, that was a very big learning. You want to ask for a little bit of money at a time. Nope. Come with the big picture, fund the big picture. And that is how we, how we will be able to do it.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, as we sign out, we want funding to operationalize the reality of waste. Amen. Dr. G, it's been a treat having you on the green couch, and I've definitely learned a lot. I've researched waste, just playing with it on a high level. So I'm really inspired to continue looking at the items I have and seeing how to divert them from the landfills and add value to them. So thank you so much for sharing all those wonderful insights.
Thank you for having me, Dr. G.
All right then. Ladies and gents, you've heard it. Be tenacious, be intentional, be a liker of things. Go out there, experiment, and give it a shot. The worst thing that can happen is, learning something new.
Exactly.
Literally, that's the worst thing that can happen. Until the next episode, do take care and remember not to waste a single story. Goodbye.